G'day, ZiggyD here, bringing you some PvP brawling action from Diablo 3's patch 1.0.7. I'm going to be giving you guys a bit of a casual commentary on this footage I have here in the background, which is me, a moderately well-geared Demon Hunter, facing up against a pretty well-geared Barbarian and a decently geared Demon Hunter as well. So this is a pretty interesting match. I'll also talk a bit about my thoughts on PvP in general, and my spec as well. I'll give you guys a bit of a rundown of my spec. So this little three-way fight here right at the beginning is actually a pretty good one. It sort of went on for a little while there, and I eventually managed to nail the Demon Hunter with a cluster arrow there. And then we have this sort of little duel with the Barbarian who's using weapon throw, which can one-shot me if it hits me, so I have to be fairly careful. So I sort of used the ground there, and I managed to get a good stun off with the cluster arrow, and I think I just jagged him with the Hungering Arrow before the Demon Hunter ducks in, so that was a nice little double kill there to kick things off for the start of the recording here. Now for my setup, I'm using, firstly I'm using, as the weapon, I'm using Wind Force, which has a fairly high chance of knockback, and the thing about the way knockback works in PvP in Diablo 3 is that it also acts as a short duration stun, which can be great for preventing people from getting their skills off and just for knocking them around and making it hard for them to do things. You'll see quite a few times, especially against that Barbarian who can take a few hits from me, that often I'm knocking him back and being aggressive, pushing up right up close to him, getting in close combat against a Barbarian while constantly knocking them back can make it pretty hard for them to deal with me. So I get quite a few kills that way. I also get a nice little double kill there, but I learned the important lesson here of never take the time to gloat in PvP because it will get you killed. So typing out double kill, I ended up getting killed. As for skills, I'm using Hungering Arrow. I'm using with the Cinder Arrow rune at the moment. I find the damage over time is pretty nice. I get the occasional kill with it, but it's good for just wearing them down as well. Since most people play with no potions rule, which I actually accidentally sort of broke that rule in this fight a few times, I end up dropping my potions. But yeah, since most people play PvP with no potion rule, or even then potions are on a long cooldown, so damage over time can sort of can wear them down a little bit, so it's nice. The other rune I like to use with Hungering Arrow is Devouring Arrow, I believe it's called, which does more damage for consecutive pierces. Now, if you happen to crit, or even if just a normal shot, and you get 1 or 2 pierces with that, that's pretty much instant death, even for a really high hit like HP and mitigation Barbarian. So that can be great for burst. But I wanted to go for sort of like a longer, more damage over time oriented approach here, so I can sort of just snipe at them occasionally and set them on flames and do that. Now, as for the cluster arrow I'm using with the Dazzling Stars, or Dazzling whatever it's called, which is basically a stun. It's probably one of the most effective stuns that a Demon Hunter has access to. That's sort of an AoE as well. So you've got like the Impale skill has a really good stun on it, which is slightly better, but it's only for one target and it's pretty difficult to hit with. So I'm using that cluster arrow, which I get quite a few stuns with. It also helps with knockback, and as you might see a few times, it's also pretty good for one-shotting more squishier characters. I think I get the occasional one-shot off on Frodo here when he's not smoke-screened with that. For the pet, I'm using Boar, which works really well against other Demon Hunters who are using Devouring Arrow, because the way homing missiles work is they pretty much just go for whatever's closest. So if your Boar's in between you and the target, it can really absorb those hits, and the Boar's actually pretty tough. It can take quite a few hits, so it saves me quite a few times. Although, since this Demon Hunter is using Entangling Shot, it actually ends up chaining me to the Boar a few times, which is a bit of an annoying slow. So yeah, the other Demon Hunter, as you can see, is using the Rapid Fire with the Web Shot, which doesn't present too much of a threat if you can avoid it, but if you do happen to get caught in it, like I sort of was there, it can do a lot of damage and can be a really effective slow. So it's an interesting skill. I prefer the Hungering Arrow, but that's a pretty cool setup too. I was interested to see that. For a bit of additional burst, I'm using Fan of Knives there with Hail of Knives rune, which increases the range of it up to 20 yards, and it just does a lot of damage, and it's great if you quickly smoke screen, turn around, and you can turn a retreat into an offense really quickly by hitting smoke screen, running back over, and finishing them off like that. It's great for finishing off characters that are fairly low health, so you can sort of surprise people coming around a corner and things like that. It's also, you can do it while doing anything else. It doesn't interrupt you, it doesn't have a cast time, so you can just pop it as you're running. It's a really great skill for PvP. I see a lot of people using it, and I've enjoyed using it as well. Obviously preparation is just tied to battle scars, which gives you a heal. It's pretty much my only heal. Demon Hunters are a little bit poor in that regards for PvP. Not very many heals that they can use unless you're using a lot of life on heal regeneration. Some regen gear could be pretty handy. I don't have too much there. I actually switched out my shoulders here for some vitality shoulders that I crafted, which give me an extra 10k health, which helped a lot against the Demon Hunter, not so much against the Barb, who can still one-shot me. But switching those over to those shoulders, although it gave me a lot of extra health, it actually lowered my regen a fair bit. So you can see my regen's quite low, and that gets me killed a few times. So that's sort of something I have to play around with there. In terms of passives, I'm using... what is it called? It's the one that gives you 10% increased defense and reduced discipline costs and increased health. It's just a great one to use. Also, pretty much the only crucial passive that I'm using is actually, here we go, I've got a list here. Tactical Advantage is the only crucial passive that I recommend for any Demon Hunter in PvP. It's a massive speed burst, and since you're going to be using Smokescreen a lot, you can use it defensively to quickly get away, to book it out of a bad situation, or you can use it to, you know, turn a defense into an offense by quickly smoke screening and then running up to them and using Fan of Knives or Cluster Arrow and things like that. So that works out pretty cool like that. The other passive I'm using is just Archery. You can pretty much sub in whatever passive you want. The one that gives you a root every 7 seconds on hatred spending skills is also pretty good, but I kind of like just the flat increase in damage there, so that's pretty nice. So I'll give you guys some general thoughts I've been having on PvP. The Brawling, I kind of like that they renamed it to Brawling, whereas before it was Dueling. Dueling sort of gave you the impression that it would be something set up, and, you know, you'd go in with serious 1v1 intentions, and you'd have, like, you know, like a best of 5 sort of duel, and it would be a bit more serious and have like a dueling community surrounding it. Brawling is a much more appropriate name for this, because I don't consider this to be dueling at all. It is really just messy, and Brawling gives you that sort of thing. It's got no point score, you just go in there and wail on each other. So I don't feel overly compelled to play this PvP mode that much, but every time I have played it, I've had a lot of fun. So that's pretty cool. I think this PvP in Diablo, it's been so long coming. And it's really given us, now that it's out, some chance to try out skills and just play around in a way that we haven't ever played before. Like, obviously they should have released this a long time ago. Like, it's such a great addition to the game, and such a simple addition as well. They had the technology and everything like that. I kind of understand why they didn't. They didn't want to put out something that wasn't what they'd been hyping up. They'd been hyping up this PvP system that was, you know, insane, and then they didn't feel it was up to scratch, and, you know, and now they've put out what they should have put out originally, but yeah, whatever. I'm happy. It's really good fun, and I think some people will, you know, develop a pseudo-serious dueling community around this. But for that more competitive style of PvP, I'll probably wait for the other PvP modes to come out. I think we're going to be seeing some interesting things there. Got a nice Hail of Knives kill there. That was pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I think I'll wait around for the more serious modes before I get more into PvP, but I enjoy jumping in the occasional PvP match here, the occasional brawling with some subscribers, and have a bit of fun there. So before I end this commentary and you know, finish up this video, I want to give you guys just like a quick PvP tip, basically. Movement is super important in this sort of PvP mode, in either 1v1s or in, you know, just the free-for-all with 4 players. The way you move around the map and being unpredictable is super important. So this is something I was really trying to work on in this particular match, and I screw up a few times, like I move in kind of dorky ways or I act predictably. But, you know, instead of just running around behind a wall and then, you know, either like popping back out to take a shot or something like that, sometimes, you know, switching up direction and taking advantage of how difficult some skills are to target, like actually running through an enemy, I find pretty effective sometimes with smokescreen, and, you know, getting behind them so that they have to, you know, spin their mouse across the opposite side of the screen and things like that. Just being unpredictable in general can make for a much harder opponent to deal with. If you've played like first-person shooters like Call of Duty and like real twitchy sort of action games like that where there's PvP, you'll sort of know this about the players that act predictably and, you know, do what you expect them to do are usually very easy to deal with, but the ones who take advantage of difficult to predict movements and difficult to predict routes can be the ones that do really, really well. So that's something I was trying to work on, but try and actively work on that if you're trying to, you know, up your PvP game a bit. So that's pretty much it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this little look at 1.0.7 PvP brawling in Diablo 3. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.